Welcome to our IASB webinar, Running for the School Board 101, Essential Tips for Candidates. To those of you who are joining us live or watching the recording, thank you for your potential interest in running for the school board and serving as a school board member. To those of you who are already serving on the board, and we see some of you, thank you for joining us today too as well. Our plan is to provide you with key information related to board service and help inform your decision to run. In fact, we're offering this webinar before the first date of filing to give you some additional information to see if it is something that you would like to do. For those of you joining us live, please use the chat feature. We want you to learn alongside of us. So please enter your questions in chat, and Tammy and I and our co-hosts will be answering them as we can. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our IASB website, along with the other 3 upcoming webinars for school board candidates that we have coming up that Tammy will be talking about in a little bit. My name is Lou Gavist, and I am on the board development team here at IASB, and I'm one of your staff facilitators for this conversation. And I invite my dear friend and colleague, Tammy, to introduce herself.
Thanks, Lou. Hi, everyone. I'm Tammy Drabaugh. I also am on the board development team and am really pleased to be with you today.
Thank you, Tammy. And I'm going to ask everybody to keep your, we appreciate you having your webcams on. We love to see you and see who we're working with today, but please keep yourself muted. And at the end, if we have time, when we have time for questions, we're going to invite you to open up your microphones then if you have any questions. For now, though, we are honored, both Tammy and I, that we have 2 of our existing board members here to act as co-contributors and share their insights and experiences on some of the content that we're going to be sharing with you. So I'm going to ask them both to introduce themselves. So Yabby, let's start with you.
All right. Yeah, I'm Yabby Dornick. I am with, I'm a school board member at Sioux Center School District. I've been with the school, on the school board about 3 years now. I joined the school board very recently, so I'm new to this and so the new to the process as well. I am a mom of 2 boys. I have a 3-year-old and a 10-year-old who is going into 5th grade. So he is in the school system, but recently. And also I'm a mental health therapist in the community, and also I work with my husband. He owns a pig business. He does a pig broker. So we are also in the farming community as well.
Thanks so much, Yabby. And Nikhil, would you please introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about you?
My name is Nikhil Wagle, and I am the board president of Pleasant Valley School Systems in Bettendorf, Iowa. I've been a board member for 10 years, and I've been president for 3 years. And I have been through, this will be my, I think it's 3rd election when I have to rerun. And I have been in the community for 23 years. And I have 2 boys that went through our kindergarten through 12th grade at Pleasant Valley, and now they are at University of Iowa. One is starting dental school, and the other is finishing his master's in education and music. And I am a physician in the area as well. And part of why I got on the school board is because of my passion for education, and I am a big supporter of public education, trying to make our schools the best possible.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. And Yabby, thanks for joining us. And you'll be hearing
that was quick. What I said.
My audio is off.
It hasn't started.
It has started. I'm listening.
Can you mute that? Thank you. Marty Brightman is also joining us. She is our legal services specialist. Marty, would you please say hello, a quick hello so people can know that you're on as well?
Hello, I'm Marty Brightman. I'm, as Lou Ann just said, I'm on the board development and legal services team, and I'm glad to be here with you all today.
Marty is hosting the webinar, and she will be putting some resources in our chat feature for us. And she's also going to be launching our polls. And speaking of our first poll, we want to know who's participating today and get a little bit know you better. So Marty, would you go ahead and launch the poll when you have a moment?
You bet. All right. This first poll is asking about your participation. So I'm launching the poll. You should be able to go ahead and respond now.
And you're going to give everybody just a couple minutes to respond.
A few more coming in. I'm going to give it a few more seconds.
If
Lou, we
you,
should have made a waiver on what the numbers were going to look like.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and launch the results.
thanks, Marty. Okay, so if you are watching this live and you don't have a web pop-up blocker, you should be able to see the poll and the results. If you are recording this, if you're watching it live, you won't be able to see the results. But the results say that about almost 60% of our attendees today have decided to run for the school board. A few people are still thinking about running. We have about 20% of our attendees are current school board members. That just speaks to the level of dedication of learning of many of our members. And then we have some school staff that are joining us as well. What do you think about that, Tammy?
I love to see those, numbers, and love to see so many people who want to be active in their community and play a part on the school board.
Yeah, and thanks for looking at IASB as a resource for you today. Tammy, I think you're going to set the stage for us for our learning.
I am. So here's what we have for our goals today that we're going to step into. And what we'll do is Lou or I will kind of introduce each of these topics. And then we're going to ask our experts that we have on with us today to then share some insights on each of these topics. So the first one we'll talk about is the authority of the board, and what is it, what does the board, what are they able to do? And that rolls nicely into then what's our role? I was a board member for many years, and I didn't necessarily, if I'm giving complete transparency, I didn't know what I was signing up for. So really understanding what that role is becomes important. We'll talk about district finances. We will not talk deeply about district finances, but we'll just touch a high level on what that looks like and how the impact that it'll have on your work. And a popular question we hear is, how much time will it take? What is my time commitment when I sit on the board? What does that look like? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and some ideas about how can you dig in and really learn about some of the things that are currently happening in your own district. And then the very last piece is, what is it that I need to do? How do I always said, take out my papers. What does that filing look like? So those are the topics, our goals that we're going to cover today. I think we should dig in. We're going to kick off with that authority as a whole board, and what that board work looks like. By law, the work of the board is done just like you see in the picture on the left-hand side of the screen when the board is all together and at the board table. And what the law tells us is that the deliberation and the decisions or the discussion needs to happen in the view of the public, so that the public can hear you as board members together talk about the items that are on your agenda. The law is also very clear in that the public isn't participating in your meeting, but they're watching and listening carefully to the discussions that you're having. And as a board, you decide what that, how you'll involve, or if you'll involve your community. And oftentimes you have a policy in place that talks about what that looks like. So we always invite our community in to watch and listen to what to the conversations of the board, but they're not participating in that meeting. A common misperception is often with community members is what is that power that I have, or that authority that I have on the board. And individually, I don't have that authority. It's when I come together with my peers, whether I have a 5 or a 7 member board, that together that we make those decisions. And again, the law is really clear in how it guides us. And the law says independently, we aren't able to do anything, but together, when we work together as a board, that's really where that authority comes in. And it's where we talk about avoiding making promises. As you are talking with your community and sharing with people that you are running for your local board, that we're not making promises about things that we can or can't do because we don't have the authority to be able to do that. And you don't want to find yourself in an awkward position of making a promise and then not being able to fulfill that. So let's talk a little bit more about that authority of the board as a whole. I would really invite you and encourage you to think about if you run and when you're elected and you're sitting on the board, to really give yourself a chance to learn at the board table. Coming into each meeting and having those deliberations and discussions with your whole board is where you are able to really gain great information from each other. And the best way to then start making those decisions is together. And hearing from your board, from your peers, from your other board members. And especially sometimes you may find yourself in a position where you head to the board table and you think, I don't know what I'm going to do on a particular agenda item. And so hearing from your peers and getting perspective will really help. And the other piece that I would really encourage you to think about is there's been a lot of work done prior to the time that you will be joining your board. So understanding some of that history that's happened and the work that has been done of board members prior to you becomes really important. And that last bullet that I'm just going to come back to is your one vote. Your one vote of 5 or your one vote of 7, depending on the makeup of your board. And it's really important to remember that piece. I would love, though, for you to hear from our expertise that we have with us today. And so on this topic, Yabby, I think we start with you, and I would offer, what would you share on this?
Thanks, Tammy. I would definitely completely agree with what you have shared. As a new board member coming into this, it feels like when you first come, you might think that you have a lot of authority in coming to this. However, you are a single vote into coming to that. And as an individual, you don't have a lot of authority. Collaboratively, the decision that you make is you come as a group, as together. That's something that you make a decision together. So knowing that is gonna help you. How do you work as a team? And that's at the table when you sit down. Those are what the work you do together. That's what the important part is going to come to. And also knowing that at the front of your mind is that you're there for the students. You're there for your community. That's your constituents that you're going to be representing, and prioritizing the community's need and focusing on those things is going to help you to provide that student achievement in a secure environment.
That's fabulous. Thank you. Nikhil, I think you also have some insights that you're going to share with us.
Yes, I think that you have to remember that when you go into the board table, you may not know, as you mentioned, Tammy, about how you are going to vote on a certain topic or agenda item. And one of the things that I've always tried to do was look at my agenda the moment it comes out. And then if I have further questions on some of the issues, I will either email my superintendent or the designated person who's responsible for that topic, just to get some more information, so that when I go into the boardroom, I am more informed and I have some of my questions answered. Remember that whenever you make a decision when it comes to being on the school board and the decisions you make at the school board level, I always tell all of my board that there's only one hat that should be worn, and that hat is to wear your school board hat. It shouldn't be a hat of, a parent, that I'm a parent in the district, or a hat of, this is my neighbor's kid's issue and I want to be that friendly neighbor, or I want to wear some type of a partisan hat. We are all nonpartisan people on the school board, and the only hat we should be wearing is a school board hat. And that school board hat means that our number one priority is for the students that we serve. And as long as you make that decision based on that number one priority, you really are not going to be able to regret your decision.
Thank you to both of you. I heard a very clear message about your service to all students in your district, and that's beautiful. We have a question that came in the chat, and I'll answer very quickly. And the question is, typically when does a agenda get delivered to board members? And I will tell you the time frame ahead of board meetings. The law says it must be 24 hours in advance notice, so your public knows. Individually, though, in your districts, what that time frame looks like, whether it's 2 days ahead of time, 3 days, that will be unique, most likely from district to district. But that would be a great conversation to inquire either with the current board member or your superintendent. So thank you for submitting that question. Lou, I'm going to pass it over to you. I think you have a poll for us.
We do, Marty. We have another poll that we're going to launch. And this is asking, has anybody approached you to ask you for a promise? And by the way, the polls are anonymous. So please go ahead, take a minute to vote once Marty gets that launched.
Okay, that poll should be launched. Here we go. Responses are coming in fast and furious. They're still coming in, so we'll give it a few more seconds.
Thanks for everyone for taking a moment.
Okay, I think I'll go ahead and end the poll and share the results.
Thanks, Marty. It looks like overall, most people, 80%, said nobody has approached them and asked them for a promise, but it looks like a few people, about 20% it has. That's not uncommon. Again, as we will go into a little bit more detail, but community members don't, and Tammy has said, don't understand the role of the board. They think you can make that happen. So thank you for your honesty. And it's just helpful just to kind of check the status of where things are at. Thanks, Marty. Okay, so let's go on to the next tip. And the next tip is learning about the role of the board. We've already mentioned that the community members oftentimes do not understand the role of the board, and that's for good reason. That's because when we talk about the governance role of the board, what is governance? Governance tends to be mysterious because most of us don't operate at a governance level in our daily lives at work or at home. Some do, but most people don't. Most of us at home and at work are doers. We take actions to get things done. We do things like at home, mow the lawn or do the laundry or wash your car or clean. We're the doers. Well, at the board level, board members are not the doers at the district level. Board members operate at a governance level, which means they operate at a very high level. We call it at a 10,000 feet level. It's a good way to think about it. And we have a picture on our slide to show that's how board members are operating at that big picture view. It's important to keep that in mind. On the other hand, the superintendent operates at the management level, the superintendent and the work of the staff. They are the people who are the doers of the organization that are getting the day-to-day work of the organization done. So it's important for board members, once you think about now, be thinking about what is the role of the board. And if you choose to run and win as a new board member, it's important to really learn about what is governance, what is my role, what are the questions I should be asking that are at that high level. So I'm not crossing over and getting into the work of staff, because oftentimes well-intentioned board members, that happens, and that can create role confusion, and it even can create some tension. So it's important to really understand that the board operates at a governance level, the superintendent operates at a management level, but together they work in concert as a cohesive team while having very different roles and responsibilities and duties to get the work of to oversee the direction of the district and to get the work of the district done. As a candidate, it's important to remember that operating at that level, because as we said, community members will often not understand your role, and they may come directly to you to help resolve a question or a concern or a complaint they have. Your role as a new board member, if you were to run and win, would be to send them back through the proper chain of command and communication channels so that they can find the person who is actually the one who can help get that issue resolved, the person closest to the issue. As a board member, you don't want to take on and champion somebody else's cause. Again, not doing the day-to-day work, but at that governance level. Just another concept to keep in mind as you approach board work. And so I'm going to take it back to our contributors and from their own insights and experience, share with us some tips. Nikhil, let's start with you first this time.
So being on the board for 10 years, I clearly know my role now. But when I first started my role, I had to learn about a little bit more. I think most of the public doesn't realize what you as a board are responsible for. So I do spend a lot of my time educating the public and my constituents over what my role is. And again, if you just think about it the way Luann mentioned it, we are sort of more of a big picture type of a role. We want to make sure that we take the district into a direction that we want it to go. We have to deal with infrastructure issues. If we have, let's say, a large amount of growth in the district, do we have enough space in our buildings? Do we need to consider building a new building? We kind of help oversee some of the construction projects. We look at the financial health of the district. All those bigger sort of issues is what we have a role in. Strategic planning is also something that we have a role in. Coming up with more board or approving board policies are roles. I would get calls a lot of times from my constituents asking me, well, my son is having a problem with their coach, or my daughter's having a problem with this English teacher. And those are not roles that we play in the whole grand scheme of things. I spent at least half of my time educating the people about what the role of the board is, and the other half of the time hearing these more micromanaging issues. And what I do in that situation is I just tell the person who's calling me, listen, I'm not the person to talk to about this, but let me get you to the person who can help you. And then part of my role is directing these individuals to the appropriate person to make sure that their problem is taken care of. And so in order for you to be a good and effective board member, you have to know what your role is and know what your role isn't so that you can direct people to the appropriate place when they bring you issues that falls under somebody else's role.
Thank you, Nikhil. Yabby, how about you? What would you like to share related to learning about the role of the board?
Yep. As Dr. Nikhil said, eloquently said, it's exactly the same thing that we deal the same way. It's a lot of things what our community have come to you is excuse me, I have allergies going on right now. A lot of times is what you deal with is as a board, you are focused on a lot of the macro level things that's going on. We're going to be fixing a lot of things what's going on in the policies, what we have, the policies that's going on in the school district, the finances and things like that. Our direct employee is the superintendent. And the superintendent, as long as we trust, you have to be able to trust your employees to be able to do their job. So if we are going into the day-to-day, if we are not trusting what our staff are doing, if we are going into every day what the teachers are doing, those things, then we're not doing our job. We're not being able to do that. So as the top, we'll be able to provide them with the policies and things like that. They'll be able to do their job to provide the proper support to be able to educate our children. However, when you are out in the community, you're gonna have people who are gonna say, is like Dr. Nikhil said, my child is having trouble with a certain teacher, coach, or staff member. And yeah, you want to be able to be a community member and be able to give them a listening ear. However, but also educate them on what it is a board member's role is, and being able to connect them to the appropriate personnel, and being able to saying is have you reached to the proper person? Have you gone to the teacher? Have you gone to the superintendent and things like that? And being able to give them the proper channel and giving them that information and leading him to the right person instead of addressing the micro level where it's at. So being able to show him that our place is to be able to get the policies and the structure, the finances and all those things. That's where our job is at. So we can be able to provide the support for our staff to be able to be there for our children.
Thank you, Yabby and Nikhil. All to say that board members do play a vital role in the governance role of the district. It looks different than what our staff does, superintendent staff does. So it's really just important to open your eyes, keep an open mind, and learn about how boards do effectively contribute in a governance way. And with that, let's move on to our next poll. Marty, I think you're going to launch our next poll. And this is checking your beliefs about what your community members understand about the role of the board. and you may or may not know, but you might have a sense. So let's have you just weigh in on the poll. And Marty, you've got that launched.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, the responses are coming in. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds here.
Great. Thanks, Marty.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end that poll and share the results with you.
All right. Okay. It's interesting. It looks like about half of you believe that members do understand the role of the board, and about half believe that community members do not. And then about 10% say, I don't know, I'm still learning, and that's okay too. Tammy, any insights that you want to weigh in on that poll?
It looks like there's still lots of opportunity to help keep sharing with our community what our roles are, right? No matter what. So that's a great opportunity and a great conversation to be able to have even as you're thinking about running.
And Tammy, I think you're going to now take us into one of your favorite and one of the most easy topics to talk and learn about, finance.
And Lou, thank you, Lou. She says that and laughs because, friends, in my 15 years of board work, this was one of the hardest parts for me was school finance. And it's a big topic. So I would right off the bat encourage you to give yourself some grace in learning. Well, you may be a finance expert already. You may be a CPA, an accountant, etc. I will tell you, Iowa school finance is a lot unique. Big pieces of finance that we'll talk about, the dollars that your district has is a big piece of that comes from the number of students that are coming through your door. And what the trends tell you. So not just how many students do you have today or how many students did you have last year, but really being able to look at what's happened in the last 5 or 10 years in your district. What does the trend look like? There's open enroll in and there's open enroll out students, right? And that will impact a pot, if you will, of money that the district that you will see. So understanding what that looks like is important. School finance dollars sit in different silos, or sometimes I call them pockets as well. And when I think of silos, for any of you who have any sort of agricultural background, we don't mix our corn and our beans. We keep them in separate silos because, one, if they get mixed, they're not worth near as much when you go to sell them. So separate pots of funding can be one. It's a lot to look at and track as a board member. It can also be confusing for the community. So if your general fund dollars are not where you want them to be, and your general fund dollars are where you're paying staff out of, and if you have to make some difficult staffing choices, that's the fund you look at. At the same time, you could be looking at your physical plant and equipment levy fund, which is often called PEPL as the acronym. And maybe you're building a new gymnasium, maybe you're building a new library, and your community says, well, how can you be doing these things and we're changing our staffing levels. Those pots of money or those silos, they're very different and they can't be mixed. It's not like saying, I'm just going to transfer some money from my savings account over to my checking account to let me make a purchase. It's not how it works. Those funds have to remain, they're for very specific things. And it's hard. It's hard for the community sometimes also to understand that. The school year runs July 1st, the fiscal year, July 1st through June 30th. And so that too is a little bit different than it's certainly different than the time frame we send our students to school. And it's not a January 1st to the end of the year. So July 1st to July 30th. And by the time you will be joining your board in November, you'll be halfway through if it's your first term, you'll be halfway through your fiscal year already. So just really take some time to learn Ask lots of questions. Your SBO in your school business official in your district is a great resource. Your superintendent, and I would be remiss if I didn't say IASB also has some great resources, but give yourself some time on that learning. We're going to share some key dates with you, but IASB has an annual convention each year in the Des Moines area. And on one of those there's a half-day session that you can take Finance 101. And I know one board member who took Finance 101 for a lot of years, friends. And one time she tried Finance 201 and she never graduated to 301. I stayed safely in the two realms of 101 and 201 because that was, it took me that long to learn, and the law also changes from time to time. So continue to be curious on that topic. Enough from me though. I'm going to throw it to our contributors and ask a little bit for their insight. And we are diligently trying to make a nice back and forth on this and trade places each time. So Yabby, I think you're up first again this time.
All right, Tammy. Yeah, this is one of the hardest topic, and for me, is my main background is being a therapist. I'm more of a people person, not the numbers person, so it really makes it difficult for me. However, it's also so different from the real world of business. So even though I'm familiar with running a business, it's just a complete world, and coming in the different silos, and you want to be saying is we have a need in this part of the school that we wanted to move this finances. For me, my first year, I'm like, oh, why don't I see money in this one, can we move this? It was just, I wanted to ask those questions, but the main part was I was not afraid to ask those questions because I did not understand how it worked. And everyone on the board I was the new one that came on board, and everyone has been on the board for many years, and they were so gracious in answering all my questions, and they were so helpful. And I would say for anyone that's coming new, any advice I would give you would be is please ask questions, because everyone wants to help you, wants you to understand that. And we all are in the same boat because nobody understands school finance. It's the hardest topic. I attend a convention that she said IASB has great resources. I've taken Finance 101 and 102, and I'm still struggling with it. So I'm continuing. And also I sit down with our business manager whenever I have questions, because I don't know how things work, and I ask different questions, and that's been very helpful. So that would be my advice is always ask questions, because we always are learning.
Thank you. That was fabulous. I'm glad to know I'm not alone, Yabby. That makes me feel better as well. So, Nikhil.
I actually agree. I thought initially that I was not very smart in this area, but one of my board members is an accountant. And when she told me that she also was very confused with some of this school board financing or school financing, then I realized that it wasn't just me, because if an accountant is having a difficult time, then I certainly felt that my struggle was warranted. I do really think that the IASB has an excellent program when it comes to learning about school financing. I took 101, 201, 301, and I just keep repeating them every time I go to the convention, because it is so different from all other types of accounting that you are used to. I guess my biggest issue that you have to remember when it comes to school board financing is that you, unlike other types of accounting mechanisms, when it comes to school board, you cannot spend any money unless you are authorized to do so. So just because you have extra money sitting in one silo doesn't mean you can take it to spend it on something else. You have to get authority in order to do that. And I do know we just met with our legislators earlier this week, and they did tell us that in this next legislative session, they may try and allow for a little bit more flexibility in some of our handling of where we get our money, where we can spend our money from, and if we can do some types of interchange, but that hasn't been set in stone, and we have to wait for legislation on that. But I think that using the IASB materials, and then also if you have a really good chief financial officer, and we at Pleasant Valley do, I set up meetings with him to talk a little bit about school board financing, and that was really instrumental in me understanding how all of this works.
Thank you for sharing that. You both have given some great insight. And Mike, you dropped a great note in the chat for those of you that are following along. And so I'm just gonna kind of tie all this up with a bow, and that is these silos, as we call them, or these individual funds, they can't be mixed. The law is very clear. And Mike put in the chat, he talked about categorical funding. So if there's something that's for an at-risk, if it's at-risk dollars, we will often call them at the board table, there are very specific areas on how that money is spent. So it can't just be shifted from one account to another. And for very specific reasons. But understanding that, and to Nikhil's point, having a strong chief financial officer, school business official, whatever the title is that you use in your district that also helps guide that is really, really important to do. So give yourself some grace, and thank you to both of you for not making me feel like I'm the only one that needed to go through 101, Finance 101 multiple times in my board career. So Lou, I will pass it to you because I think you're going to ask us another question.
We do. We have another question. This is related to district enrollment trends. What do you understand currently about your district enrollment trends over the past few years? Because that does, as Tammy shared, relate to district finance. Just an opportunity for you to learn something more about, if not now, in the future. So Marty, I think you're launching the poll.
There you go. The poll is launched.
Giving everybody a moment or two to respond.
Give it a couple more seconds. There's a few more people that may want to respond. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results.
Okay, can you, the results are shown. If you're watching this live, you should be able to see that. Oh, look, again, around half the folks say they have a good level of understanding about enrollment. About half say they have some understanding, and about 10% say they only have a little bit understanding. And again, it's okay to be at a different point in that learning continuum. This is just another idea of something that you're going to want to learn about in the coming months. If you're elected, if you choose to run and are elected. Thank you. So let's go on to another tip, and this is one that cannot be understated, and that's understanding the time commitment of being a board member. It's important to really be thinking about and understanding what's involved in board work so that you're going into it with your eyes wide open. Serving on a board involves a larger time commitment than most people would understand. And if you visit with any board member, ask them that question, see what the response is. I'm guessing the answer is yes, more than they realize. Totally worth it. It's just good to know what that commitment is. Board work involves more than just attending one board meeting a month. And sometimes board meetings, depending on the issue, can go long. If there's a big, as somebody said earlier, if there's a facility issue or a needs assessment, some of your board meetings might go longer, and you might have more than one per month. And so it's important to understand that. It's also important to realize that board members often participate in other kinds of board work relating to committees. So many board teams, not all, have a committee structure. So you may be serving on a policy committee where you're reviewing policy throughout the month and making recommendations back to the board, or the finance committee, if that's your jam. It would not be mine. It would not be mine, but if that's you, if that's your passion, you may serve on that committee, which again is in addition to your regular board meetings. Other obligations include maybe serving on an advisory committee. So it's important to understand it's not just regular board meetings. There's other kinds of obligations that board members may be participating in to serve the district. It's really important, you've already heard this, that as a board member, let's say the board meeting is on Monday night, you will get your agenda and a packet of information a few days before. Oftentimes that's around Friday, but as Tammy shared, and Nikhil and Yabi, that's unique to your district. So you'll find out when that comes. but it's an important commitment that you spend time, as Nikhil said, before the meeting to dig into those materials, read through them, get your questions to the superintendent asked in advance so that you come to the board meeting prepared. And I will tell you, I've said in many work sessions where board members will say they can tell the person on the team who is not prepared for the meeting. So you just want to understand that the commitment and your responsibility is to come as prepared to that board meeting as possible, knowing that it's okay to learn as well along the way. And lastly, we really believe and value the commitment to professional development. As a board member, you expect your teachers to continue to learn and grow, to serve students. You expect your principals to engage in professional development, to learn and grow, and to become better leaders. The same with your superintendents. You believe in their professional capacity and you support their learning. Guess what? As a board member, you come onto the board, there's a whole lot to learn about, as we've already said, about how districts work, the law, finances, policy. What's it take to improve student learning? It's a different viewpoint as a board member. And how can I get and support my team? What do we need from each other? That comes from the professional development, from attending our convention in November. And Tammy's going to talk more about that. Attending webinars, engaging in board work sessions throughout the year, where you may have an additional meeting where you might be digging deeper for a couple hours on a deeper topic. Those are examples of the kind of learning that you would want to commit to engaging in as a new board member, so you can continue to grow into your role and serve your district well. But let's hear from our contributors on time commitments and expectations. And Nikhil, let's start with you.
So I would say what you mentioned is exactly what I've experienced. There are times throughout the year where the commitment is a little bit less, where we might have just one board meeting in a month, usually because it's a summertime and we usually only have one July meeting. We usually also have one meeting just in March and one in December. But then the other times of the year, we have two meetings. And those are your core board meetings where you try and get work done. But then the commitments go further than that, because you may be asked to serve on some subcommittee. Like I serve on the health committee for our district. You have a SIAC committee that talks about curriculum review. You have committees that deal with a 5-year plan. All of those committees are things that you may be asked to partake in because you serve as a board member. The commitments, though, can sometimes be more time than you're expecting because of certain things that have happened. I happened to be on the school board during COVID, and during those COVID years, we had a lot more meetings than we normally did. In fact, right when we first shut down, I was having a meeting almost every single week with our administrative team and different aspects of the district to deal with transportation, to deal with IT issues, to make sure that we could go hybrid. And curriculum issues and communication. How are we going to communicate to the families? And that took a lot of extra time. Because I was an elected official and this is what I was committed to, I was very happy to do that. And I was able and willing to devote the time. So if you are going to run for a board seat, you've got to understand that you can't just be somebody who's just going to plan on just going to the board meetings and contribute in that way and give your board vote. If you want to be part of a board, you really have to be all in and take whatever responsibilities that come along with the position, because that is really the commitment you have to your constituents by running for the board.
Thank you, Nikhil. Yabi, let's hear from you.
Yep, I definitely agree with everything that was said. Similar to that, we meet as a board twice a month, except in the month of July, we have one meeting. And because of usually 4th of July kind of end up being the first of the month. And other than that, we do have our board work session and also our monthly meetings. And in addition to that, we do have committees that we serve on. For example, myself, I serve on advisory committee and preschool committee. So that's a separate time commitment than the 2 monthly meetings that we have. In addition to that, we took the time our district, we as a board, we decided to go through our entire district policy. And we went and revised that. So that was a time commitment. So you have to be able to study that and revise that. So that's something that you have to do in your own time. And then during our meetings, we discuss that and we revise that. So you have to be able to invest those times. And then also when you have constituents, when you want to talk to you, you'll be able to spend that time listening in those things. So you better be able to invest those times with your community. Sometimes I like to sit down and have visits with our superintendent and see how things are going. Professional learning, like Luann said. The other things also is I personally like to attend student activities, like different games, whether if it is musical or whatever they have going on. I would like to be involved in those things. Like I said, my children are young, but I like to go to high school events because I don't know what the high school kids are. So I like to be involved in those things. So I know how things are going. So I would like to be in those buildings. So those are in itself as time commitments, being able to take those times. So you have to be able to have the passion to be able to be around those times. So do you have the time? Do you able to invest yourself and your time in what you're doing?
Thank you, Yabby and Nikhil, especially for giving some additional examples of how else you serve the district in this role. And it's just just going back to really be thinking about, do you have the time to devote, to commit to all it takes to serve on the board and serve well? So thank you. Related to that, Marty, we have another poll. And this is asking you, what have you done or do you plan to do to learn more about the time commitments of serving and being a board member? You should be able to choose more than one answer. So let's go ahead and get the poll launched, and then we'll see what you're thinking.
Okay, the poll is launched. I am not sure if this was set to multiple choice, so I apologize for that. If
Okay.
people were only able to select
Only
one
choose
answer.
one. Okay. If
I'm
you're
not sure.
Okay. Well, it'll give people a sense. If you can't choose more than one, just choose one that they think would be helpful, or that they have done that's helpful.
We're going to give it a few more seconds. The responses are still coming in. Okay, looks like we're about done. So I'm going to end the poll and share the results.
Thanks, Marty. So talking with a school board member, half of the people have done that. That was a suggestion I was going to make. Sit down and talk with a school board member, ask about what their board meetings look like, how long it takes, what kind of expectations it's good to have. Another one, a superintendent, about 25% of the people have selected that one as an option. Attending a board meeting is a beautiful way, and stay for the whole thing and see what it takes. And then there's other ways of learning as well. Okay, let's talk about now. Tammy, did you have any other insights that you wanted to share regarding expectations, or are we okay to move on? I'd love to hear from you.
I would just chime in on the poll. If you've not had a chance to attend a local board meeting, take the opportunity to do that. I know sometimes it's hard to watch somebody else's meeting and topics that maybe you've not been entrenched in, but it's a really great way to learn. And I'm going to echo Lou's comments, stay for the whole thing. It gives you an idea of the length of board meetings, because sometimes the agenda is light and it's quick. Maybe it's 45 minutes. And sometimes there's a lot of great conversation and it needs to be 3 hours. And that's, it is what it is. So take the opportunity to do that, or watch a recorded one. If your district records them, watch a recorded one. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tammy. Okay, and Tammy, I think you're going to share our next bit of advice.
I am. Thanks, Lou. This is the piece about really trying to start some learning about the district. And this isn't necessarily saying you need to go learn every piece or everything that there is, but really get a sense in your district of what is that mission or vision statement. And a great place to start is on your district's website. And each district does things a little bit differently. So if you're anticipating to find one thing and you find something else, that's okay. But look at the information that the district is sharing and get a sense of what the goals and priorities are as well of the district. And if you don't find that on a website, you can certainly, that's a great conversation for a board member, or time with the superintendent can help give you some of those pieces, because that really becomes important. And you will quickly see as well that the districts will talk about the education of all students, and really understanding that seeing that word all is so incredibly important. And what are the beliefs of the district? That will give you a sense of what is it that what's the core values that the district is looking for. Key initiatives. Sometimes key initiatives are easy to see if it's facilities related, because you may see it in your district. But teaching and learning and programs are a little bit harder to see, because most of us aren't living in the buildings every day, which, by the way, is okay. But again, having that conversation to really understand what is it that the district, what are we striving for, and what are we looking at? And then the state of the district, the overall, I would call a little bit of the overall temperature. What do our staffing levels look like? We talked about students. We talked about open enroll in and open enroll out. What does that look like? What are we seeing for trends? What are your district boundaries look like? But getting that really high level picture will help you then also understand probably some of the things, both priorities and maybe I'm going to call them opportunities. Some people might call them challenges, but I'm going to say opportunities that the board has that they're working through with a district. And again, as you're learning these things, and when you're elected and keep learning and asking those great questions, new board members bring wonderful and beautiful ideas to the board table. But I would also ask you to don't forget to honor that you have board members who have served many years prior to you, who have been in the process of implementing some of these great things as well. So take time to really understand the work that's been done and what the direction is that's currently being set as you jump in to add to what's happening in your district. I'm going to ask, though, to hear from Yabi and Kale on this. And Yabi, you and I are in a pattern, my friend. When it's my turn, I think you go first.
I hear that. But Tammy, I definitely love how you said, as you call them, opportunities. I love that. It's always is an opportunity for growth, instead of, the word challenge, usually people kind of shy away from that because people don't like challenge or change in a sense. But I do love the opportunity because it's opportunity for growth. And I agree with that. I would say it's definitely ask the questions of, like you said, is go on the website to look what the mission statements are. If you're not familiar with your own district mission statement visions are, then go look those up. And if you have questions about it, talk to the superintendent, go sit down and have those conversations and learn more about it, and talk to other board members. Honestly, ask questions. Whatever you have, having that open conversation is going to lead to that. And as you go, when you get elected and you become a new member, whatever ideas you have and things like that, have open discussion about it. Curiosity, and having these conversations is going to lead to for the betterment of your own district.
Thanks, Yabi. Nikal?
Yeah, I think what everybody has said is correct. I really found that when I was initially wanting to run for school board, I did attend a couple meetings. And just attending a couple meetings was really important in me sort of seeing the dynamics of the board, seeing what the decision-making process was like, what was the composition of the board, and who were the other members that sat at the board table that gave their opinions on things. And so I think observing a couple school board meetings is really important, just so that you can get a feel for what position you would be holding if you were to be on the school board. I also do think that reaching out to your superintendent and talking to him about your interest and finding out sort of what types of roles the board members play, and see if you can put an added different perspective on the composition of the board and see if your input would be valuable. I think that's really important as well. And then I will talk to community members as well about what is the pulse of the community with regards to the school board and the issues that are facing the school district that they see, so that you get a little bit of a feel for what you may be saddled with if you do become a board member. And so I think those types of interactions will be very helpful in you determining if this is a right position for you.
Thank you so much for that, both of you. Lou, do you have anything to add to that? And if not,
I think we just have a few more minutes and we have a couple more things to cover, plus our executive director wants to say hello. So I'm just going to go quickly, thank you, Tammy, into our last tip, and that's filing as a candidate. Many of you have this information already. Just know the dates for when you can file, when the first day is, when the last day is. Read through those materials carefully so you don't inadvertently make a clerical error, which takes you out of the running. There are a lot of resources that you have, including IASB. You see information on the slide. And Marty Brightman, I believe you sent the PowerPoint out. It's also on our website. Tammy's going to be talking about our upcoming additional webinars that are designed to support your learning as well. And so just take some time to really be careful about your filing and that process. Really quick, Nikhil and Yabi, can you each just give one quick comment? Nikhil, let's start with you. What would you say about filing?
Luckily, we have a really great school board secretary, so we just fill out our paperwork and then we give it to her, and she takes care of actually hand delivering it to where it needs to go. So she's been excellent. I do think that you may want to start on getting your signatures early, and you want to get more than the allotted number, just because you want to make sure that the people who you have asked to sign really are legitimate in their signature and attesting where they live and if in your district or not. And so one of the things that I've done is on weekends when people are out walking, I might go and ask them for a signature. Or this upcoming weekend is our block party for our neighborhood. So I usually bring my paper there and I get a bunch of signatures at my block party. So if you want to try and save some time, you can go to these events like that that will allow you to make those signatures and that process easy.
Great suggestions, Nikhil. And Yabi, what would you like to add?
Yep, I definitely agree with that. Getting more numbers than what you need. For example, for my district, we need 50 signatures. So, going a little bit overboard might be helpful to you. But also is utilizing social media in your neighborhood, in your area, so you can be able to. That would be a helpful resources to be able to use that. And your, like Nikhil said, your board social secretary is going to be a great resource as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for your insights and guidance on that, Tammy. Would you take a couple minutes and talk about some upcoming learning activities that we have?
absolutely. So today's webinar is one in a series of 4. And they are geared specifically to those that are a candidate for the board looking to run. And as Lou said earlier, we see lots of familiar faces, by the way, online. So we love it when our current board members join us as well. Legal and ethical campaigns for school boards. You'll see that one August 31st. And then we jump into student learning. Do boards really make a difference? That'll be then in September, the 21st. And then the 4th and final will be the building blocks of effective relationships with your legislators. That is in October. And if you're like me and will be panicking right now, oh my gosh, I got to write all these dates down. Remember, it's in that PowerPoint that we sent out to you as well. So the dates are there. And then, of course, we talked about every year IASB has a convention, November 15th through the 17th. And you have a variety of things that you will be able to attend during those days. I will tell you from my time as a board member, that was some of those were the best days for me that I got to see and network with lots of folks, and I got to learn so much. And that'll be in Des Moines. So there's a link there as well for that. And then part of what we will offer in Des Moines is we will specifically during the convention, we will have a workshop we call it Ready, Set, Govern. And it's an onboarding workshop really geared for new board members. If you choose to do something else, you'll be in Des Moines, but if you choose a different session besides Ready, Set, Govern, maybe you're going to do, I don't know, Finance 101, there will be 16 opportunities for you around the state. Lou and I will be traveling around from the far north to the far south to the far east to the far west. We will most likely be within an hour and 15 minutes of your home. And you can find those on our website as well that will be in the months of December and January.
Thank you,
Lou, I
Tammy.
think that's all I have.
You're beautiful. Thank you so much for that big overview. We have more information on our Learning Hub. A question came in. We do not offer our convention virtually. We devote our time and energy to face-to-face, but we do make some of the learning available later on in the year in a virtual format, like our Ready, Set, Govern. We have webinars throughout the year. So we really encourage face-to-face if possible to attend. Thanks for that question, DT. Would you like to unmute yourself and welcome and say hello to everyone?
Yeah, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for this webinar. My name is DT McGee and I'm the new Executive Director of the Iowa Association of School Boards, started on July 1st. We have a wonderful staff who is committed to serving our members. I encourage you to get out and attend the convention in November. It's a wonderful event and a great opportunity to network. And sometimes it's awesome to have those peers outside of the district that you can talk to and talk through issues. The other thing, and I'm a former superintendent last 7 years, and one of the things our school board members started to do was get into buildings and do building tours. And so oftentimes as board members, you may get feedback from your community that isn't always the most positive, but you get into buildings and you see all the great work from students and staff members that's occurring on a daily basis. And they are so eager to share the great thing that they're doing in their buildings and love to have board members visit. That's been my experience. So thanks again, everybody, for joining this webinar. Thanks to Lou and to Tammy and to Marty for all your leadership, and good luck with the upcoming elections.
Thanks, DT.
Lou and Tammy,
Yes.
I put it in the note because I think it's critical that people running understand if they're elected at large or if they're elected in a district, because that's another mistake that can happen is you go and get signatures from people that are in your district, are in your school district, but not in your district, so to speak, that you're representing. So I'm sorry for interrupting, but I just thought I'd better say something.
No, that's a great comment, Mike, and that's part of getting really clear about the process. Thank you for clarifying. If you're at large, you have to make sure all your signatures are coming from that area. And I think that goes back to Nikhil and Yabby. Get extra signatures just in case. But to your point, Mike, it's really important to know what kind of seat that you're running for. We are out of time. Does anybody have a quick question that they wanted to unmute and ask?
Lou, we had one in the chat that I'm going to add because you and I love this question, and that is the timing of the election is a little bit different. That changed a few years ago, and we've not. The convention is right after that, and we know that's tough. We asked to move the election again. I don't know. We weren't successful with that. That's when you all laugh. We didn't really ask to move the election. So if you sign up to attend, we want you don't need to wait till you don't need to wait till you're have been elected. If you sign up, let's make the assumption that you are going to be elected. If you're not, you may withdraw from attending, and that's okay, but you don't have to wait to sign up. We know that timing is a little tough. So
actually, Tammy, we're doing things a little bit different. We're going to have a lot of guidance on our website about that because our new board members won't be in the system yet. And so there's going to be an FAQ on when you can sign up, all to say our registration does not close. So as soon as you get the note that you are elected, you can sign up. But there will be a lot of information coming out. Call us if you have specific questions. This is a confusing issue, but we do everything we can to get everybody who runs for the board to our conference. So thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, if anybody has any questions after today, you have a follow-up that you'd like to ask, our email is on the website. Give us a call. Somebody will be happy to visit with you about the kinds of support questions that you may have. We're we're here as a resource. And on behalf of IASB, thank you for taking the time to learn together with us and your interest in serving on a school board. We believe it's one of the most rewarding and important volunteer service roles that you could ever take on, supporting public education. We're here to help and are just a phone call away. Again, this webinar is recorded and will be posted within a couple days. I would like to give our sincere thanks to Yabby and Nikhil for taking additional time to serve and provide guidance to our potential new board members. Thank you for sharing your expertise and insights. And Tammy, thank you for being on and sharing your wisdom. And DT and Marty, thank you to you as well. And with that, it's a wrap. Take care, everyone, and have a great day.